everybody to the March 4th, 2026 Glens Falls City Glens Falls Planning Board meeting. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Mr. Landry, do you have any comments on the minutes from the last meeting?
No comment.
Mr. Trammell?
No comment.
No comment.
Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
All right. First thing on the agenda this evening is some old business. It's site plan review, SB 26-007, Tina Flores, owner of tax map number 302.20-31-6, commonly known as 178 Glen Street, is seeking to convert the vacant second and third floors into 4 two-bedroom apartment units pursuant to the City of Glens Falls zoning code chapter 220-19C and 14. This requires site plan review and approval. Is anyone here representing that? Come up before you. Please introduce yourself. You are Tina.
I am Tina Flores.
And tell us about your project here.
Yeah, so I want to finish the second floor and the third floor, 2 apartments on each floor, dividing it in half. Just, basic open floor plan with kitchen, living room, basically a bath and a half, and 2 bedrooms, closets, utilities for each separate, and just pretty simple, pretty basic.
Is this all central heating on this? Or is it?
No, I would put heating, everything separate. Each unit has its own heat source and air conditioning and electrical.
So you're going to have condensers somewhere, some sort of utility closets in these, and some sort of way to get air in and out for the heat units.
Yes.
Let's see that on there. I know we have some comments here from building and codes and the fire department on as far as egress and some issues from that.
Yes, and I met with the fire department, and I also met with Philip. They came and looked through the building, and it was way different than what they had thought. So in the front of my building, there's a separate door and its own staircase that goes to the second floor, and then another staircase to the third floor. And then in the back of the building, there's a staircase that goes from the third floor to the second floor as well. And then when I did the downstairs for my office for Call the Banker, I had taken the staircase from the second floor that came in my interior to the first floor out, because at the time you could have fire escapes for your egress. So there's a fire escape on the back of my building that would take care of that.
Nina, have you looked at this? You want to give us an architectural?
I guess I would sort of, between my comments and then also defer to the fire department, because they're the ones who have the final say as far as whether or not the layout meets code. I know that the zoning code for the city of Glens Falls requires windows in the bedrooms, and the building code for the International Building Code, New York State Building Code, requires specifically rescue windows in all bedrooms.
Right. And we spoke of all of this, and they're waiting for like the final design plans, because what I was told is we can rearrange everything in each apartment accordingly to what we would need to do with what they will approve.
So I guess, my only other questions then would be, again, whether or not sprinklers would be required, which they typically are.
Yeah, that's still an up in the air question. You want to finish?
So, pretty much, what I said is that I need to be able to see a final plan, a final layout, how many means of egress, how many true apartments we're looking at in order to actually give a definitive answer.
Yeah.
Along with that, the biggest thing we found was the means of egress. the fire code doesn't allow you to use the fire escape anymore.
Yeah.
Existing building code does, but it has to meet very specific criteria. So that would be another way, and that's only on the second floor. So then we're still worried about the third floor having the one means of egress. As you mentioned, the windows from the bedrooms leading into the hallway, not out into fresh air, as the code states. So there's a couple of things that I couldn't give kind of any sort of approval just because I would need those stamp plans and a finalized design to really look at it and see if we can meet the code and follow the code.
Yeah, and I know that the residential building code does require sprinklers for third floor sleeping spaces, so, these would be things you'd want to think about.
Right, and they brought all of this to my attention and why I had Philip and him come to my building. And I'm willing, and we've talked, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to make it what it needs to be, obviously, so they'll approve it.
You have windows front and back.
Front and back, correct.
So potentially you could manipulate the plan.
They could be manipulated, yes. And as far as the second egress, I have the front of the building, there's a staircase to the second floor and one to the third floor. In the back, there's one from the third floor to the second floor and vice versa. And I can drop in another set of stairs and make a doorway going out. So there's things that I can do no matter what they want, it can happen. I guess is what I'm saying.
And I think from our point of view, we just want to make sure that you understand.
I do, yeah, thank you. I mean, I did it first, and of course,
Would be
the drawings are the way you want it to be, the way you want it to look, but I have the capability of doing whatever they say at the end of the day.
And my only other question really was, parking, are there gonna be?
I don't have to.
You don't have to, yeah, I was just-
Where my location is, that's not required. Like even I, you know, on the building, we're on the first floor, I have five parking tickets, so I don't even have parking, so yeah.
I have no other comments.
You good? Ethan, you have some comments on this?
No, just concurring that, basically checking with the fire department codes on it.
Yep. And I've been working closely with them. so
Exactly,
that-
same thing.
Yep. Mhm.
Jack?
Conceptually, it's a good idea. Unfortunately, I think I'd like to see final plans.
Well-
We can do a lot of things.
Well-
It'd be, in my mind, it'd be worth it to see some final plans.
Well, can I speak to that?
Yeah.
The final plans, that's why typically come, this is the basic ideas, and these are what has to be done, but my final, like, that's gonna cost me $10,000 to do, and then have to say no. So that's why typically that's after a yes from here, the plans get drawn up, actual plans. Because
Well, normally we have a lot more to go on and a lot closer than where we are. I mean, right now, this doesn't meet code. So I want to hear the comments from the rest of the board, and then we'll go from there, okay?
Okay, yep.
Getting back to Chairman's question about the heating units, are they gonna be on the roof?
That I don't, I'm not 100% because I do, there's two different ways I can do it. I can have it in each or on the roof. And if either whatever one is best for the project, I will do. So I'm open to either or. So when the architect draws everything up, I would go by whatever I was advised to do.
So it's either gonna be roof units, or it's gonna be in individual utility closets in each apartment?
Correct, yeah.
What about trash removal?
I would pay for trash removal.
Where is it? Where's it?
It's in the back of my building.
Back of the building?
Yes.
Is it common for all, is it going to be for your business and all 4 apartments?
Yeah, in my business, we throw maybe that out.
Okay.
So, I have plenty of room there for like another can, whatever I need, I have room to put it there.
Are you anticipating a dumpster or just
No, just like the regular cans, yeah.
residential?
Residential cans, yeah, that's what I have now.
I am looking for
Mr. Landry?
Basically, to piggyback on everything that's been said, really don't feel comfortable even commenting on this until we would see the final plans. Because to me, you know, it's, you know, we could sit there and give you preliminary approval and some very serious fire concerns have been brought up. And, you know, I can see you getting down the road and all of a sudden you gotta put in a $150,000 fire escape or something, or some type of egress. So I think normally we deal with the fact that we gotta set a final plans that might have to be modified slightly. But like I say, I don't.
Okay, that's not what I was told when I did this. I was told that this is basically, you know, this is what the intent is, and then because I can't even get a permit without
Yeah.
the fire department and codes and all of them okaying everything,
Right.
that like all those fine-tuned things would come into play at that point. That's what I was told. Even like leaving here with a yes, they can just say, yeah, no, that doesn't work, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And that was my understanding, that's what I planned on doing. And that's why, like I said, I met with zoning, I met with codes, I met with the fire marshal, and all of that.
There's a level of construction level detail where, yeah, you don't have the final things done, that has a conceptual thing where we can see and we know that what's going on, and then there's a final plan. We don't have any of that. Like this, right now, this could all change and not be anywhere near what we have. We have no exterior drawings where units are going, when you put in a heating system, there's gonna be some part of that that's outside, or a cooling system. It's either gonna be on the rooftop or it's gonna be mounted to the exterior of the building. Before we can approve anything, we need to see that stuff, conceptually.
But is this building sandwiched in between two?
Yeah.
So it's gotta go on.
So, yeah, or they got them on the island.
Right, they either have to be a utility
But
closet.
this isn't you need to get with the architect and come up with a plan for that. Mr. Sherman, you?
Yeah, Riggers, you went over just about everything I had written down. So, on a conceptual basis, yes, I think we can say, yes, this is a good idea, it's been done in other downtown buildings, and I believe nobody even warns against that. But there are certain things, as far as from a planning perspective, that do come to our attention when we look at this. And some of the things are the heating units, air conditioning units, are to be monitored to the wall of the building, whether you got a roof. Those are all things that planning boards do look at, and as far as that process goes. But conceptually, I think I would be willing to say conceptually, I'm approved of those apartments. I think it's a good idea. I see I would say you have quite a few hurdles you're gonna have to plan to get this approved, as far as the building code standpoint. But I agree with what a lot of these board members have said, and I think there are certain aspects of this which have to come back to the planning board. And those are the aspects that the chairman was just mentioning.
So for me, and I think we're all kind of on the same page here, is that all of us want to see this. We have no issue with the project going to fruition. It's just we need to be a little bit farther along in the drawings before we can vote to approve something like this. This is one thing.
Right.
I would like to see us table this, and you come back next month with the drawings and everything where we know where we're at, and work out these details.
Okay, and I thought that's what I was doing with Philip and the fire
Yeah,
marshal.
but that's, once that's done, I don't,
No, I understand, I was told that I didn't need that much stuff to come here.
I don't know.
That I had the concept of what was going on.
We love the concept,
I like the concept.
yeah.
And I agree with all the other comments that we need a little more in the drawings. And I want to make sure that building and codes and the fire department is ready to sign off, that you submitted plans to them, that they will approve, so that we can look at it and say, okay, fire department's approved it, city engineers approved it, building and codes has approved it, now the planning board can. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we give site plan review and then something happens or there's miscommunication at a later date.
No, and I understand that, but my understanding is those approvals come after this approval.
May I?
Yeah.
So I think what a lot of people are asking for is, we care about going to the heating system, we care about what's on the outside of the building. So want to know and weigh in on if, for example, you wanted to hang a split system unit on the front of the building on Glen Street.
Absolutely not.
Right, for example,
But
right, but for example, that's sort of
Yeah.
part of the information, anything else that you would need to do or want to do to the outside of the building we care about. We also know that no matter what we approve, you can't actually build it until fire department building codes.
Correct.
So, the middle ground is the additional information that people are looking for. You don't need completed construction documents that you're going to have to pay somebody to do and then risk not having approval. But you can talk to the person that you're working with and say, all right, I've got egress issues. Does that mean I have to put in an extra set of stairs? What does that look like? At least conceptually, you can kind of know that you've got a path towards approval with the building department without having to spend money to finish your stuff. We want to know what's on the outside. Are you changing the windows, any of that
No,
stuff?
I mean, yeah,
You know, like for example, making sure that your windows are the correct egress size, and if they're not, that would.
well, the other thing with my windows, my building could basically be claimed historical, and I can't change them anyway. I have no intent to change the shape of the windows, because I don't want to mess with the architecture of the building. It's an 1800s building, and when I restored the first floor, I mean, my ceilings are original, I kept everything that I could from back in the day, because I wanted to, mix the old with the new. And I have no intention of hanging a bunch of stuff on the back of the building. Just to know, the furnaces, I was told that I might have to get like those mini splits and put them on the roof.
Right.
My intent all along was to do where you hang them in, you have the.
You do, but you still need something outside
Yeah.
to make those work. So I'm saying to this, that conceptually, we all like the project, we want to see it happen. We just need more information. We can't make a motion to approve this. It would have so many things attached to it
Mhm.
that it's just not feasible for us to do that at this time. So can I get a motion to table this?
I make a motion to table so that the applicant can bring in additional documents as requested by the board, specifically compliance with all fire codes regarding egress and or sprinkler system, compliance with building and code department requirements, or design relative to the heating units and trash storage. Is there anything else we can add to the motion?
Anybody have anything else to put up? Just so she has all the data that we're gonna need. Okay.
Maybe less of a motion thing, but I'm just sort of curious, I'm new to the board, but I know there's an existing use on the ground floor. Can I presume that was approved via site plan previously? I mean, so is we just amending the existing site plan? But there may be already a bit of information on this site.
Yeah, it would be from way before our time.
Also upstairs, yeah. I mean, we may be able to answer some of the questions. Oh, for site plan, so looking at, see your collectors, what the building looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that could be added to.
Building and
the
codes.
board's knowledge.
I will ask the clerks to
For prior site plan.
search for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it would be
told them.
interesting. It might make your job easier.
10 to 12 years ago,
Yeah.
we did the first floor.
So we have a motion on can I get a second on
I'll
that?
second it.
All in favor? So Dave, line out the stuff, Devin has the list, all the stuff that you need to comply with, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Okay. So I don't have to have full-blown architectural plans enough to show all this stuff, is what you're saying. Right?
Yeah,
Because I don't even know how to get that.
what I would do is work with Mr. Ward and the director of building and codes so that then you can get the items they desire, so that you can come back with a more specific package to present to the board next month.
We made this motion to table this, but is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this application? Okay. Dr. Olson, thank you.
Thank you.
New business, signboard review SB 26-0 002, 41 Southwestern Avenue LLC, owner of tax map number 309.7-10-31, commonly known as 41 Southwestern Avenue, seeking to place a freestanding sign with 10 square feet two-faced monument sign pursuant to the Glens Falls zoning code chapter 180-5A. This move requires sign board review and approval. Is there anyone here representing that?
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Phelps with AJ Signs Company. I'm a project manager involved for this.
Okay. Tell us about your project here.
Yeah.
Sign.
Primarily 80K optometry. They're pretty much looking to replace the existing sign. We are pretty much requesting to go a little bit bigger than what the code is required. Code says 6 square feet is approved. We're looking to basically put in a total of 10 square feet. Also, in addition to that, we're looking to have a internal halo lit kind of backlit effect to kind of give the sign a overall nice appearance. It does state by code it needs to be externally lit, so we're wondering if maybe we could get a variance on that. And that's pretty much what I'm looking at.
Nina?
My comments were originally thinking that you guys were in the cultural professional zone, and we're saying
No, there are.
R1B.
But, which doesn't really change. So you guys are looking for a slightly larger sign, 10 feet, so 6 square feet, and then internally lighted. Questions I have would be how bright is this light? How many hours is it going to be on during the day? I think there is a requirement that it be a certain distance from the property line.
They meet the distances from the property line and your sidewalk, which is fine.
I believe that's 10 feet, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you putting it in the same place?
Essentially, the one existing is actually a little bit closer than that 10 feet. So we're going to basically install it at that 10 feet mark from the curb.
Can you tell us about the lighting that you're proposing?
Sure. It's basically going to be kind of like a LED halo lit. So I do have kind of a night view picture. I know it's probably difficult to see, but I can certainly pass this around. But basically just the logo itself and the actual lettering, that's going to kind of have like a backlit effect. So it really won't be too bright to the neighbors nearby. And I can certainly pass this around if anyone would like to see.
Please.
That's in our packet.
That's in the packet.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And that's on the right.
I didn't know if that was something different.
Will it be on all night?
I mean, it's really up to you. I know that our client would probably prefer that, but I do see that in the code. It's really, only allowed during, I believe, business hours. So if that's something you guys wish, we will make sure, it actually has a kind of like a photo cell or a time clock.
I don't have any other comments.
Ethan?
I just don't necessarily know what criteria we're using to exercise discretion on. And just in terms of like 6 feet, 10 feet, I don't know what, is it just personal preference that I'm going on?
Well, the code for that area is 6 square feet for the
Yeah.
sign. They're asking for a little variance in 4 square feet to make it a little bigger. Going by this, it looks like the whole, that includes the brick and everything?
No, just the
No,
sign.
just the sign.
Just the sign.
Yeah, so it's just, are you strictly asking from my perspective from aesthetics or, this is where
Yes.
strictly aesthetics? I have no comment.
size, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's right, right there. Yeah, I'm not typically, I just always think in terms of like a zoning variance, you know, where there's certain criteria that you weigh for this one.
No,
is
it's
sort of-
not, we're acting as the board of sign review, so
Yeah.
variances regarding signs that are not code compliant come before us, it's not a zoning issue.
And do we have any design standards that we strive for as a design board review?
One of the residential sign standards is they can only use 3 colors, which they only use 3 colors. And there is a distance which they've met from sidewalk and curb, as well as then they're going for more than the allotted base square footage. Those are the residential, we don't have a lot of signs for residential areas.
Right.
They are right on the border between 2 zones. Correct.
Queensberry is across the street.
Yes.
Right.
House is behind it. It's
Queensberry is
residential, right?
Queensberry is across the street.
Yeah,
That's
but behind
not
it is
how
residential houses. Dean Bruno lives right behind it.
Carlton? or
Yeah, Carlton.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a commercial building, it's been a commercial building,
Right.
with a sign for a long time along, you're still in kind of commercial corridor, even though the line for the zone happens.
Well, across the street are other businesses.
Right.
It's all business.
It's all business there.
It's behind them is residential. Across the street is business, Queensberry.
Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I'm okay with the sign. I just wonder if you could just dim it after 10 o'clock at night, you know, keep your light on, but just dim it a little bit if that's more appealing. Other than that, it's not bad.
It's actually an improvement over what's
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Because that, right, they shine up at
Right.
it. This is lit internally, so it's not really casting or dispersing light anywhere else but in that sign. So that when you drive by, you can see it. I think an internally lit sign is better than the ones that have the posts with the light shining up at it.
I will just say that 1E-5, section, where did you just go? 2, any such sign may be illuminated only by external lighting, only during the hours of operation of the related use, subject to all other restrictions. So, just in the time sense of dimming it or not, which the code for.
Is that for just this zone?
For residential zones, yes.
Mr. Lane?
I guess it's kind of a double-sided question. To me, I mean, they contacted you, you looked up the zoning for that area. It said 6 square feet. Are you coming to us saying that this is that you need 10 square feet to make it or break it for this sign to be effective?
Primarily, it was just a request of
Yeah.
the doctor, just looking to gain a little bit more visibility from the sign, or from the road driving by. And being a difference of, 4 square feet, they kind of felt that would be a fair ask.
Okay. And I guess the only other comment I have, and it's a personal comment, is that to me, anytime you make a variance or something like this, or you make an exception, you can establish a precedent. So that would be my concern. So now somebody could come in 2 months from now and said, okay, we went from 6 to 10, which was a 50% increase, we want to go to 15. So that's my just personal concern. I think the sign looks great. The way you've got it, it's not 10 square feet. It looks like it's floating.
Yes.
So I guess my concern would be just to set the precedence for the variance.
Mr. Sherman?
Yeah, just to clarify, so the back light is through the white acrylic? So is that where the light's shining through, so it's actually lighting up the white acrylic material?
It's actually behind that, so that'll be kind of solid, and it's actually technically painted lettering, and then it basically floats off the sign, so looking at it, you kind of see like a halo, a
line stands in front of the material.
Exactly,
And so
in front of the
so
LEDs.
you're backlighting the letter.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I think that look, I know the code says to be exterior lighted, but I think it's probably for the technology to do some of these things like that. And I think a halo effect probably have much less of an impact on the neighborhood. So I agree with that. The only issue would be, of course, the sign size, because you are exceeding the limit there. Do you know the size of the old sign is there?
I look back at my notes, I can definitely get you that. I do have kind of a secondary folder with all that information. Speaking without having that in front of me, we're very close. The existing might be either right on the measurement of 6 square feet, or it might be a little bit larger.
I think you're over.
I think you're over two, because you
Yeah, it
actually
looks
have
like-
two signs.
Yeah,
You've got the sunglass underneath.
yeah, that sign's over.
Yeah. And I don't know, to be perfectly honest, if this is something that's grandfathered in. Just my expertise on the sign, I'd say, it's definitely been there for several years. I don't really know what the code was at that time.
I'll just take a moment to point the board to 180-13 is authority for variances on signs by the review board. So one of the sections provision says that a proposed non-conforming sign, so we're talking about going from 6 square feet to 10, and then the internal versus external. It says a proposed non-conforming sign, if you determine that it would not be offensive to the aesthetic objectives of the chapter, you can issue a variance.
So, I've got a question then on, absent other criteria besides some general aesthetics. We look at the district intents for the R1B district. If we're looking at preserving the character of the district, we rely on the zoning code for that. First
Well,
intent for
Mr.
that
Gowdy,
district.
I point you to, we're in this, district that talks about in this particular district, 180-5, it has, a set of criteria. You want me to just run through them?
Well, actually, more the intent in the district itself, right? The
I know
general
what you're
purpose
saying,
is
but it doesn't specifically speak to that.
the intent of the district within which the
Right.
sign is being proposed.
Right. I think that's a valid consideration for the board to consider.
And
But there's all those businesses that are around us that have been there, it's kind of a pre-existing thing. So, do we think this is better than what was there, and do we say, is this okay?
I think it's a benefit also moving it back. It appears to me like it's quite a bit closer to 10 feet. I drove by it the other day. So pushing that back to the 10 feet, I think also helps with what you're looking for. I think the closer to the road it is, I think it distracts from the thing. So I think that also is a good thing you're doing, is to get it back beyond 10 feet.
I think Ethan's point is valid. If this was something in the middle of the block that would have houses on either side of it, this is in what everybody's familiar with is kind of a commercial zone, irrespective of the actual zone.
There's how it got that way. There must be variances granted to all these businesses.
It was years ago, yeah.
Well, they're right on the edge. They're like one end from.
But still, it's been there for,
Right. Again, it's not in the middle of the block of houses.
Right. I like it, I don't think it's an infringement on anybody, I'm not a person that's normally in favor of variances. We have rules for a reason, they were established. It seems like we're changing something for the better, from what it was, so. I mean, it's up to the rest of the board on how they want to decide.
How do people feel about it being lit, the backlighting for the letters only during the night? I don't mind.
It is the letters only.
It's letters only, I don't mind at all.
Yeah, long
I mean, the
as,
street lights there, give them like the backlit sign.
I'd say long as your purpose is just
legally, are we setting ourselves up for future, you know, because to me, we're talking about something, aesthetics is discretionary. You know, improving it for the better is discretionary. You know, I may think it's improved in it, he may think it's terrible. I mean, legally, are we, or is it, you know, to me, it almost is, it's like a variance for me to ask for.
What variance?
Well, it is a variance.
Yeah, so
Under
it's a
the board
variance.
of sign review,
Yeah.
we're granting something that does not comply with the code.
Right.
They're usually dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Does it say?
The code does say at the very end, I should have read this part before, the granting of any variance shall no event be construed as precedent for any other application.
Okay, okay.
So I think we're covered unless you have the exact same situation, someone might have an argument about that,
Okay, all
about
right.
this setting a precedent, but,
Yep.
you know, I think you guys have discussed on the record the reasons why this is a little bit different because of where it's located and
Okay.
that it's improving the aesthetics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the other thing, it's sandwiched between two other businesses that are similar, and you got exactly the same thing across the street, so it's not like it's on the fringe where you have a residence next door.
Right next door.
So it is kind of in an area where it's shielded by other businesses which are of the same type, professional. So I honestly think it's
I would just clarify that something like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is if we do approve this, the light just during business hours, does it want to say 9 o'clock? I mean,
Well, the issue is during business hours, in the summer, you won't even see it.
right.
So the internal light at night that shows just the light, the lettering, I think is totally appropriate. That's just my one opinion. I don't have a problem with that being on all night pursuant to the night view as demonstrated by the applicant. But if anyone disagrees, speak up.
Is this something we need to see, you know, lit up down the road? Like I said, I don't have a problem with the sign, the lighting aspect of it, I don't think it's gonna bother anybody. But if we approve this, as you said, in the code, it's first basis that we approve it. So it's not like somebody else could come in and say, there's a, you want that one's on, it's a different sign, correct?
I think I would caution about leaving that on all night, but that's totally up to the board.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to look at a timer.
There you go.
And I'm under the same thing as I said, how we don't know what it's for.
Right.
There's no way for me to say what that's gonna look like when it's up and running.
But I say 10 o'clock.
But I think 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I think we could probably say that's a reasonable time period to have it lit. You know, so that's my opinion, whether, you know, I don't know the rest of the board, my opinion would be, I'd like to see a timer put on it. And then if the board wanted to review it after it's up, we wanted to come out, and look at it and see if something that would be at night, that I don't think I can say.
So if we say 10 o'clock, you gotta put a timer on there, if we see it after it's all done and everything, then we can always amend that, you guys are amenable to that. Absolutely. Yeah. Would you like to make a motion for us?
Sure. I make a motion acting as the Board of Sign Review that the board grant the application SB 26-002, 41 Southwestern Avenue LLC, owner of tax map number 309.7-10-31, commonly known as 41 Southwestern Avenue, to replace a freestanding sign with a 10-square-foot, two-faced monument sign, which will have internal lighting, with the sign to be operational during business hours until 10 p.m. at night, and it will be moved 10 feet back from the street,
And your side.
and near a sidewalk.
Can I ask a quick question before we vote on it? It says, are you proposing more than one sign? And you mark yes, what's that mean?
Two-sided.
So it's
They have a sign attached to the building already.
Oh, okay.
So this is, in a sense, there's
Oh, okay.
a sign in the residential district, regardless of whether it's attached to the building or freestanding, you only hit one sign.
Okay.
And I can add where the other secondary sign is, it's essentially where the parking lot, it's It's right actually on the brick of the existing building, non-illuminated or anything. It's just really just another branding presence essentially. To add, that's not facing the road.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Site plan review, SB 26-009, Venture Fox Realty Group represented by Shane Cahill, lessee of tax map number 302-20-18-14, commonly known as 71 Bay Street, is seeking to open a real estate office in a currently vacant commercial space. Pursuant to the City of Glens zoning code, chapter 220-17C and 3, this requires site plan review and approval.
Hi, I'm not Shane, I'm Troy. Shane had his kids keep winning baseball or basketball, so not in the filming. So this particular project where they just hoping to go in, we are doing some painting and just refreshing of the space really in the inside.
Sorry, what's the last name?
Troy Miller.
Would anybody from the public like to comment on this application? Mr. Manager, you have any questions?
Other than that, this is a rental space that you guys have occupied? Okay. All right, and, do you know approximately how many people might be in there at any one time?
That would be less than 10 for sure.
Okay. And is parking provided there?
There is some parking around there.
Parking on the street?
It says 2 parking spaces up front, 5 behind the building.
Yeah, okay. And there's also 2 or 3 apartments in that building too. That I think, other than that, I know, but I know that area too, you also have street parking. Yeah. So that would be your backup. No, I have no other questions.
Mr. Sherman?
No, I have no question. That would be the answer to that.
Mr. Gadd?
No questions, if they just change the use of the ground floor.
No more.
No questions.
Yeah, you're just painting and fixing up the. What's that?
One comment.
All right, good.
And Cedar.
It's a picture.
Just one question, so the parking, this isn't going to impact the parking of the residents? That's one.
I mean, honestly, it's typically 1 or 2 people at a time in there.
This is part of, isn't there like 3 or 4 buildings all owned by the same?
Yeah, it is or was for sale of like.
That whole corner is.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 buildings. I don't know a lot of the details, but I know there was like maybe even more apartments. I don't know. Just have the tenants on it.
I don't have any issues with it. I don't have any issues.
Great.
I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant site plan approval for the applicant or for the project identified as Venture Fox Realty Group, lessee of tax map 302.20-18-14, commonly known as 71 Bay Street, to open the real estate office currently in the vacant commercial space pursuant to the City of Glens Falls zoning code, chapter 220-17C3.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sign board review, SB 36-003 Curran Lane, represented by Eric Runkoff, owner of tax map number 303.17-13-24, commonly known as 0 Leonard Street, is seeking to install a 4-sided freestanding sign on property Pursuant to the City of Glensville zoning code, chapter 180-6F, this requires sign board review and approval.
Okay, so, that parcel is a little parcel that the train tower sits on. And, basically looking to put a four-sided, sign kiosk, between the tower and Leonard Street. And, it would have, one sign would be, a map of the, Warren County Bike Trail. And the other signs would be related to the history of the property.
So that's two, we have four sides.
No, so there'd be an interpretive panel for the history of the tower. There would be a interpretive panel for the mural that was just done in relation to, you know, again, it was its history. And one for kind of, you know, what it's becoming now.
Mr. Gadd?
Just wanted to recuse myself from this conversation. I've worked with the applicant a little bit on this project.
Kurt, my memory is that tower is pretty close to the street.
No, it's in fact, I think there should be a drawing in there as to where it is. It's back probably 25 feet.
No, I'm familiar with the tower.
Yeah.
Every day going to school. I'm okay with it, I just, you know, conceptually, I just want to make sure it's far enough away from the street.
Yeah, no, there's a pretty good, there's plenty of room in front of that, between the street and the tower to have.
Do we have it here? How far?
How
The
far
drawing
is
doesn't show.
the sign from the road?
Drawing
Because there are
doesn't show.
requirements for this.
The drawing shows
Because
where
this
the
is
sign
the
is
tower,
between
that's
the
where it's-
So this is the tower.
The sign,
Sign, yeah.
this is the sign.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not, the tower's the tower, but we're reviewing the sign, so I'm assuming 5 or 6 from the road.
Well, let's see, sidewalk is 4 feet wide, right, plus 2 feet strip between the property line and the sidewalk, and then this is gonna set back like another 4 or 5 feet, so at least 10 feet. from the road.
There's a requirement, actually,
I thought we just said 10 feet.
it depends on the zone.
No, I think it's the same.
Is it okay? Right.
That's it. 10 feet from the sidewalk, 10 feet.
Which, because we've got,
We have a distance there.
I'm just double
10
checking.
feet from the
so you're saying
sidewalk.
that's 10 feet.
10 feet from the sidewalk.
The sidewalk.
That's just the word.
Yeah, no, no.
Yeah, it's gotta be 10 feet from the sidewalk.
Right. So it looks, perhaps it might need to be pushed a little further back.
Okay.
And I think some of that has to do with vehicular views. I know this isn't on the corner, and we've run into this with signs before, yeah.
Right.
Especially there, if somebody's riding down the bike path, they can see if someone's coming.
Right, there's a pretty, as I recall here, there's a pretty wide green strip between the street and the sidewalk. So it's in the street, there's a pretty wide green strip. The sidewalk, and then there's yet another green strip on the other side of the sidewalk before you get to the property line.
So I think it's a good idea, as long as, you know, we accommodate the 10-foot rules. And so the idea
this is gonna be a four-sided one, the same style as to what Warren County is using.
With a little roof on it, that's what I'm asking.
There's a sketch there somewhere of what it's gonna, basically the dimensions, yes. So, from a standpoint of somebody using the bike path, there's different shaped signs based on what information they're supposed to be conveying on the bike path. That three-sided sign, style-wise, is what is supposed to designate like an information board. So that is why that style was chosen. Originally, I was gonna have it a three-sided sign for just my own use, and then I talked to Ethan with his Warren County planning hat on and said, hey, does the county want to jump on here with another side of signage for, to map the bike trail? And indicated that the county did, so that's why I turned it over to side.
So the overall height is 90, that's to the top of the roof. And from the ground to the top of the sign is 72 inches. And the sign itself, you're looking for 30 square feet. It says 2.5 times 4 sides, area square feet, you wrote 30. I don't know.
Seven and a half for each panel, I think. 7.5 feet for each panel.
So that's
Yeah,
your
it's
sign
actually-
area, so that's.
Yeah, so it's 7.5 per panel times 4, all right, give you the 30.
30. Is there any lighting on it?
No.
No lighting.
It's really just going to be used, primarily by people using the bike path. Since that's not really operable at night.
Yeah, that's, I think the idea is really cool, just giving the history of everything there, and also not the bike path. Do you know for sure that you can't put it 10 feet back from the sidewalk?
Oh, I can, which end of the sidewalk am I putting it 10 foot back from?
Side nearest to your property.
The side nearest to my property?
Because we may as well start with what is being asked for in the code, and then if for some reason it doesn't work.
Right. I mean, what did I have down here?
You don't have to do this, you say 12 by 12 foot there, acres.
Based on the 12 by 12, it's definitely lower than, less than 10 feet.
12 by 12 feet.
Because it's in the middle.
So if that is drawn to scale, then your sign would be, more here, but.
I mean, I wanted to, basically I wanted to have the field around it, which the field is going to be pavers, so that it was handicap accessible all the way around.
So people can read it.
Right.
Is it
So
going to
we-
connect to the path, which was pavers, or to the sidewalk?
To the sidewalk.
That's just what I'm asking. I'm asking if there are
Yeah.
mitigating circumstances that say you would prefer not to be 10 feet back.
I prefer, well, I don't have a measurement of the street.
Right, so-
There is,
I mean,
you
no-
can see there's a fairly large green strip. The green strip's actually wider than the sidewalk, right? So the sidewalk's 4 foot, I would say that green strip is eyeballing is at least 6. So, so to get from the street to the edge of the property line is already 10 feet.
Right, but without scale drawings, we're just kind of spitballing it, and we don't know for sure. And all
Well,
all
that
of
is scale, that is an actual drawing, that's a blow up of the actual survey property.
Yeah, because
That's-
No, from that
12 by 12
asking
figure
how
is
far the
just-
sign is back from the sidewalk, specific, in number of feet. I'm asking if you can comply with 10 feet. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
And like the vision is of a very nice sort of urban, you've got paving around it, and there's historical information. We just don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're
In
going
my
to-
mind, if it was gonna gonna be in the center of that 12 by 12 field, it was gonna be 4 foot back from my property line, it was about 6 foot back.
Yeah, but look at the microphone. Eric, hold on for a second.
Devin Rosell, zoning planning coordinator for the city. We could potentially condition it that it has to meet the setback requirement of 10 feet. If he cannot meet the setback requirement of 10 feet, he will need to appear in front of the zoning board of appeals.
Okay, different because this is in the schedule of, set dimensional requirements.
This would be a setback which we would go to the zoning board for relief from. This is not a simple dimensional relief being sought from the code.
Mr. Major?
So you're saying that we can just basically put a stipulation that it must comply with the.
Yep.
I know the area fairly well, I think we're only talking about a foot or two anyway. So I think we're good, and the other thing, that I gotta applaud you about is I'm involved with a wayfinding effort on the feeder canal system. And this is a very expensive, very nice, to be in compliance with that wayfinding system. This isn't 3 pressure treated thing, wood put in the ground. This is a very nice professional ties into the system of the whole wayfinding of the state. So, like I say, this is a very credible effort that you're doing.
Thank you.
So, no, I have no other questions.
The only question I had was, and you answered it, it's kind of a permanent nature, I just want to make sure it wasn't a bulletin board type thing out there. And then, again, the only thing is the setback, and other than that,
I like it, Eric. I think it's a good thing for the city, the bike path, the county, everybody involved. I think if you can get to 10 feet, get over that hill. I think everybody's,
I'll make it work somehow.
okay. I think as long as you can do that, get to 10 feet,
Right.
I don't have an issue with it.
All right.
I believe that's what everybody's thinking, so. That's what we're.
Was this referred to the county?
It was.
Thank you, and seeker? Type 2. Then I would like to make a motion acting as the Board of Sign Review to grant the application SB 36-003, Kernan Lane LLC, represented by Eric Unkoff, owner of tax map number 303.17-13-24, commonly known as 0 Leonard Street, seeking to install a 4-sided freestanding sign on the property pursuant to Glens zoning code, chapter 180-6F. It will be a 4-sided informational sign in compliance with the drawings as submitted by the applicant and will be in compliance with the 10-foot setback.
Second. All in favor?
All right, thank you.
All right, site plan review, SB 26-010, James Rapino, owner of tax map number 309.11-6-2, commonly known as 65 First Street, is seeking to operate a hosted short-term rental in the R2 residential zoning district, pursuant to City of Glensville zoning code chapter 220-13D and 7. This will require site plan review and approval.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Rubino. I'm the owner of 65 First Street and looking to apply for a hosted short-term rental in the other unit, the duplex, looking to live on one side, rent it out.
Are you going to rent it short-term rental, or if you rent it out long-term, or?
Short-term rental, sir.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this application? Mr. Gagnon?
Just looking at it, it seemed, only just looking at the drawing I brought up, Devin, I was looking at the impervious coverage of the lot. We talked about it, and you didn't know if it was directly related to the action at hand, but I was just questioning whether or not it exceeded the lot coverage requirements for that district.
long-term tenants in there.
Okay, so you're gonna live in one side and the other side is the short-term rental?
Correct.
When did you buy it? I'm just curious.
I closed in December.
Okay, great. How many the second unit is it 2 bedroom?
Yes, ma'am. 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, each unit is identical.
Are you registered or you've done the registration for short-term rental?
Yes, yep.
Mr. Landry?
Actually, Karen asked all my questions.
I'll let you go first next time.
Yeah, so, no, I'm all set.
Mr. Sherman? All right, so Mr. Sherman, here's your comments on this. If you're gonna use it as a short-term rental, make sure you have the notifications up there with, you know, who to call in case of emergencies and all that. You know, you got people from outside the area, sometimes they don't know if this gets approved. Make sure all that data is up there, your escape plans and.
I will also note to Mr. Sherman's delight, he has listed 911 as
Yeah.
responsive, so
That's the job.
no cell phones.
So, I really don't have any issues with it. Be a good neighbor. You know, we have a few of those in there. I don't believe we have many problems in the city with them, with short-term rentals. Just be a good neighbor. It's the biggest thing, I think. So,
This is just so, yeah.
All right, so
They're not constructing anything, they're not building parking.
you're not doing anything, right?
No, as of built 2015, so that is not.
And the parking's there already?
Yes.
So you're not adding parking, or adding paved area.
Correct, yep.
I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant site plan approval for the applicant James Rubino, SP 26-010, owner of tax map number 309.11-6-2, commonly known as 65 First Street, to operate a hosted short-term rental in the R2 residential zoning district pursuant to the City of Glens Falls zoning code, chapter 220-13D7.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Last night.
All right. Site plan review, SP 26-011, Judge Gershon, lessee of tax map number 309.28-2-6, commonly known as 54 South Street, is seeking to convert a vacant commercial space into a tavern-style bar and restaurant pursuant to the City of Glens Falls zoning code.
Good evening. I'm Judge Gershon, project owner. I'm looking to open a bar and tavern style restaurant. Years ago, I had one in Lake George, looking to get back into that business and run my own house.
For the record, I have no relationship to Joe's tavern.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this application? Okay. Mr. Landry?
For the record, I used to spend some time in Georgetown.
I appreciate that.
No, I look over what you're doing. I think you're going to be a great addition
Thank you
to
very much.
downtown. I mean, it's a great building, it's a great location. You're definitely going to add some spice and variety to the downtown, so.
I would try.
Mr. Sherwood?
I have no issues, the only thing I was concerned with was the back hood, but I go by earlier, saw it was vented to the roof. Which I would say all over downtown, creates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
For your neighbors. So that's the only issue I would have had. Other than that, fine.
We got some comments here from the city engineer and water and sewer, which it says agrees traffic is part of the food service applications. Please provide additional information, which building codes will have to do all that. I know there's another comment with this is engineering and water and sewer. If we the trash and all that, that's stored inside the building, we went through that with the other tenants, correct?
Correct.
Your plumbing, you've done this before, and again, building goes on to take care of that. What else did they have? Cooking oil storage, are you guys gonna have some sort of thing in there, because you're gonna have a couple of restaurants in that building?
So my understanding is there's gonna be storage
common?
in that common area. But I'll have to double check with Chris, but I believe that's what we spoke about when we went through the whole garbage area.
That was already in there. Is that good?
What are your hours of operation?
It's gonna depend on staff. Right now, the target is to do lunch and dinner. Not gonna be a late night place like the previous jobs. But, there is a chance if I'm given enough staff, if I can find the right people, I'm interested in also potentially doing breakfast. So that's a possibility. But right now, the target is lunch and dinner.
Is there space for entertainment or no?
There is space for it, yes.
Are you planning on bringing entertainment?
Yeah, small
business?
acoustic glows. Nothing crazy.
And you said the trash is with your landlord? Is that-
Correct. In the backside.
Yeah, we don't, our drawing, we have that facility on that doorway, that big entryway.
Right.
Into the building.
Right at home.
I have nothing else.
Mr. Morpheus?
Again, I saw those comments from the city engineer about grease traps, and as long as they're accommodated, it's fine with me.
Yeah, grease trap is right. It's right underneath that garbage room. So they're gonna have nice easy access to be able to drain it to.
Mr. Gadd?
I pretty much the same comments on the, garbage receptacle, I just didn't see that on there, but it sounds like you're getting that resolved. And then, just a general question about loading, I know it gets busy down there. If there's any consideration for how that's gonna work with the flow of downtown traffic.
I mean, that's going to be the only hindrance, is that there's no backside to that building. It backs right up to the building. So they will be doing their deliveries on the street.
Maybe around the corner, like.
Probably the better. I'll be honest, I haven't seen them
There's
deliver down
that
there.
big, door,
That's where the trash is, that's where the,
and I thought that was the plan for the other businesses, for the deliveries to be there.
I don't know, there's no access to my store. I know
from
that.
the interior through to that.
Correct. So, they could still park in that area and just wheel around. It's not very far.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, and it's not necessarily all, on one individual applicant to resolve. How do you deal with adaptive reuse of existing structure downtown? And it's probably likely something that, the business community, the city as a whole, have to figure out how to manage.
Right.
And, same thing goes with the parking. And that, knowing that it's in the central commercial district or the CCD, and there's no off-street parking required, but, in site plan review, you still have to consider parking, right?
Of course.
Devin let me know that this might have been resolved during an earlier site plan review for the entire structure, so I'll stay out of it, although it did raise my attention to be like, hey, 80 people, how do we keep putting parking downtown without, mitigating? Yeah, mitigating, right? But if that's already been resolved,
Well, we're starting with where we are. Chris has made arrangements, thank God Wade built the building on point. There is a few extra spots in there so that every tenant in this building gets a spot there, plus there's a few left over, so that does help mitigate something. It's still, there is an issue without it.
yeah, and again, there's certain things that the city's gonna have to resolve, right? That each individual applicant can figure out.
Yeah, I can recall that Mr. Patton did present a parking plan with the entire structure when that was approved for site plan review, even with unknown commercial tenants, and it was approved by the
do have a second egress. It's, if you look on the map,
Is it this one or is it?
So right in front of the kitchen, there's a secondary door that's going to exit out to the lobby of the apartments.
So as long as that meets the fire code.
It does, yes.
You got no issues or
The
anything?
only thing I was waiting on was the hood. Was your hood finished Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
That's completed.
Just documentation on that, which.
Well, do they have to be inspected? And then-
Yeah, so that'll come through with their inspection, their mass occupancy, and the only other thing was, what was mentioned was the oil storage. So it's not just you, it's the other restaurant as well,
Right.
that I know Chris was working on a plan to try to get everything.
I believe the last time he and I spoke about it, it was a few months back that we discussed this. I was under the impression it's going to be in that same room with garbage. I don't know if that's, maybe he's changed that since, and we just haven't discussed it, but.
It's not a huge issue for the size of the two businesses in there,
Right.
but it is something.
I think that's, excuse me, I think that's gonna be safer, is that you have a certain allotment, but if it's all stored there, it's also stored next to combustibles because of that trash, so we'll finalize the plan,
Sure.
but that's just something to keep in mind that will be coming up in the inspection as well.
Copy that.
I think it'll be another good addition to downtown.
Okay, appreciate that.
The big thing is, as long as Aaron is happy, there's a plan for everything. Like I said, I toured the building. And what he did there is remarkable, to bring that back in the way that he did it. So I don't have any issues with this.
Secret.
No secret.
It's, like, it probably, we could argue it was already done under the main.
They do,
Right, but I would say even just for the specific site plan acceptance.
Then I would like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant site plan approval for the project known as SP 26-011, Judd Gershon, lessee of tax map number 309.28-2-6, commonly known as 54 South Street, to convert a vacant commercial space into a tavern-style bar restaurant, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant work with the engineering and water department to provide the proposed location, supporting design and sizing calculations for the grease trap, and that the applicant also meet all fire department requirements and inspections, including but not limited to the plan for storage of trash and cooking oil storage.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So could I ask you a question? I just had a thought. Are you gonna come back and ask for a sign variance or anything like that?
So I have to get the sign application. I was under the impression that this was all encompassing, so I'm gonna get that done ASAP.
Well, we did.
Well, if your
Kevin
sign-
doesn't, he gets the one blade sign.
The sign is compliant with the
Yeah.
zone.
Mr. Patton has installed uniform sign,
For that building.
sign spaces where they can just be plugged in, they meet the code, they would just go through a building permit application, which you would submit to the building and codes department. If you want secondary signage, then you will be back in front of us.
Like the hair salon, they just got their, she wanted the letters in the window, they had to come back for that, because that's a
Okay.
second sign. As long as you just have that blade sign,
That's it so far. I think that we were gonna try to do, the decal on the door. Is that something I need to?
It's gonna be dependent on whether or not it's informational or not, or if it's just hours of operation or something of that nature, then it falls into an informational category, but if it's going to be an actual advertisement for your business, it
if it
does
says
not.
Judd's on there,
Yeah, I've got a picture of the sign if you guys want. That's
The
all right.
blade sign?
Yeah.
The blade sign's gonna be conforming, I know, because I spoke to Chris about it, they're all conforming.
This is actually a chat GPT version.
process of looking for a chef. So if he has some crazy talent that we haven't been thinking of, if that's his specialty, then we might get into that. But so far,
So any of you board members that didn't get a chance to go when Joe had his place in Lake George, he's a very good operator, and it'll be a good addition to the city of Glens Falls.
absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.